right, everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
Fiorella, look up. And Johnny, Sue, and Oz are on those ones and twos and those overalls.
Sam, I'm busy, okay? Give me a second. I'm sharing things. Don't order me around, please. There we go.
I never order you around. You order me around all the time.
Never.
Oh, Bullstein. Don't even try to paint a different picture.
Okay. Whatever. All right. Hi, fams. How are you? How are you guys doing?
We have 21 people who walked in the door over at the Rokfin. Guess who walked in first, fam?
Trey, right?
Of course. And he says, love you all. Trey, we love you. He saw the last James Bond. He said it was good. He said, go see it. He saw Lamb last week. So he's like our movie junkie.
He's the movie guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Remember when we used to go watch movies all the time? We used to hit up the Lemley Theater. Wow. Still live at the Lemley. For all those out there who don't know what the Lemley is, it's like the independent theater in California. There's about, like, in Southern California, there's like 5 of them all around the Los Angeles area and through the valley and everything like that. And they show like independent movies, whatnot. It's kind of cool too, because like when the original Batman came out or the second one came out, everybody was like waiting on lines to go see it. The Lemley would also show those movies every once in a while too. And you used to just walk right up, buy a ticket, and go right in and see a great movie. Rob McMurtry's here, fam, and thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Back on YouTube's.
Okay. We are back on YouTube, guys. So make sure to like and share. And we're going to try to get our algorithm back, the little ones we have, because we're obviously demonetized. But, you know, YouTube has been absolutely horrible to Franco, to Slow News Day, to Niko, giving him 2 strikes. So we're not under the impression that that this is going to last. Now, we are going to try to be on other platforms. I was talking to the fams about Rumble. You know, there are other things that we want to do. But yeah, we're back on YouTube for now. And we have a great show. We're going to try and see if this works. Oz did something amazing. They're going to be able to see the Super Rays on the YouTube channel.
No, they're
correct?
not. No, they're not. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay. I'm not manager yet. I need you guys to make me manager. As soon as that happens, you'll be able to see the Super Rays on the screen.
Okay. I thought you already did that.
I thought I did, but it won't do it unless I'm manager. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So when we do that, then he'll be able to do that, because that would actually help out us, since we are entirely demonetized. And yeah, so we're gonna have a Rokfin only section, but we have a hefty show today, fam. So let's get started.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody we're also on
Odyssey
as well. I can't shut the volume down, but hopefully my Odyssey is not working where it's weird. But guys, Odyssey is another platform you can go to. Their blockchain is completely decentralized, so that's a really good situation. I don't understand how it works necessarily, but Odyssey is one of those networks you can go over there and watch us as well. So please do so. If the Rokfin doesn't work for you, if YouTube doesn't work for you, then head on over to Odyssey, and we'll figure out stuff like Fam said. We're going to look a little bit more into Rumble, see what's going on over there. So please just bear with us. And we got some great announcements too to as well, Fam. I think we already made the announcement. We'll go a little bit more in detail as well. But you have the first section, so why don't you get the ball rolling, and I will bounce off you.
All right. So look, we've been talking about how the squad would fold, because we've seen this before. We've seen them fold, and not just them, but like every quote unquote progressive Democrat that has to face with, you know, their moderates like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, or the parliamentarian bullshit that they invent. So they met, and Biden met with progressives, and Biden has decided that he's going to gut the free community college. And the budget is likely to be reduced to 1.9 trillion from the 3.5 trillion they were initially saying they wanted. Now, the Biden told this yesterday to CNN, and he told the House progressives that the final bill was to expand the social safety net, is expected to drop tuition-free community college, and he also said a 1.75 to a 1.9 trillion price tag for the package is going to be in the talks. The number is not finalized, but again, guys, Joe Manchin wanted a 1.5 trillion. So look how much closer they are to what Joe Manchin wanted than to what the progressives said they wanted at 3.5 trillion. And the child tax credit, this is another thing that the squad was touting, right? A key Democratic priority, apparently, would likely extend for one additional year, much shorter than initially they wanted, and it will be means tested. So again, this is also keeping up with what Manchin wanted. Guys, the squad, Joe Biden ran on free community college, expanding child tax credit, expanding Medicare, and they're pretty much abandoning all of that. I just want everybody to understand that part, like how ridiculous it is, and how I don't want to say I told you so, but we fucking told you so. And Biden also indicated that they would reduce the proposed funding for home care for the elderly and disabled down to less than $250 billion from the $400 billion that it initially was. So there's another reduction. And they are weighing reducing the duration of paid leave benefit outlined in the package to 4 weeks, down from the proposed 12 weeks. Again, so initially, remember when we covered this, I said it was incrementalism. This is crumbs. Well, now it's like even less crumbs, and you're likely to pretty much end up with nothing. This is what we've been warning about. When we do these things, we're not trying to be negative. We're not trying to, say, oh, like everything is just going to be awful. It is awful because you have no leverage. They started very low with incremental policies. And at the end of the day, incrementalism is far deadlier oftentimes than a revolution or anything more intense, because it's dispersed in the long run, right? And so according to Biden, as of now, they plan to keep the expansion of Medicare, and that includes hearing, dental, vision, in line with what progressives want. But Rokfin also told CNN's Jake Tapper on Tuesday that Biden planned to provide community college scholarships in the package. So they went from free 2-year community college to college scholarships, which obviously means that you have to qualify for that. And let's say you are a working class child that has to, work and help their parents out, or whatever issues you may have at your home, you're not gonna qualify. And so you're gonna have poor people being completely disqualified from this. And again, just a reminder that Biden had previously called for a 2-year community college thing. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders were advocating for free universal college for 4-year colleges, and that he wanted to have pre-kindergarten and 2 years of free community college. But again, he's backing off of all those proposals. And real quick, Pasta, before you talk about this, I just want to reiterate from Manu Raju, who tweeted this, and that he said they're looking at community college scholarships. Also, Medicare expansion is on the table, as is universal pre-K and ACA funding. So again, they're going to re-emphasize the ACA. Dems had discussed with Biden $300 billion for climate change measures, but it's not clear how that shakes out. The price tag is going to be about $2 trillion, more likely a little bit under than that, as we just said. And they're going to reduce the paid leave, pretty much is what we said. So he was just highlighting pretty much everything we just read. And so before we get into the videos, Pasta, I just want to hear your opinion on where this is at, if you're surprised at all, because obviously I'm not. And this is just a sad state of affairs.
Two points I want to make on this again. Are you going to hear me out there, Oz? Nice?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love you. So there's 2 parts I want to really kind of just talk about when it comes to this particular bill. Once again, we never get the discussions on the floor that we deserve, right? We don't get this robust debate on the floor. There are sponsors and co-sponsors to this bill, and they should be going through this bill like a fine comb and going over each section. If Manchin has an issue or Simina has an issue with this bill, then that should be on the floor, talked about in front of the people so the people can see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Instead, you have these little sound bites of what's going on and how it's going on, and you really don't know where it's coming from, where the funding is coming from, where it's going, all these things that we need to understand when it comes to a bill, when law is passed, when legislation is passed, the American people should have the right to know. And that would help by, number one, making sure that these bills are small. Number two, make sure they're not written by lobbyists. And number three, make sure that every aspect of the bill is talked about. But we never get that, ever. Instead, like I said, we get those sound bites and we get a little discussions, we get a little Twitter spat and what's going on. Number two, if these things were, if there's a reason, legit, other than a legit reason why people would vote against these things for certain reasons, saying, okay, we can't put this money into education or whatnot, or whatever the case may be, the real reason behind why we can't afford these things is we spend so much money on empire, right? We have the military bill, which is bloated up to above 700 billion. We got to give Israel another $1 billion. We got to take care of money over here, over there. So when it comes to these programs, which they say, oh, these programs are enabling people, they don't help people, it's just bullshit. We should be able to spend our collective taxes on what we, the people, want. And what we, the people, would want is education, healthcare, infrastructure. And I'm not talking bullshit, fugazi infrastructure. I'm talking about real infrastructure. We don't get that. Why? Because so much money is wasted on empire. So really, to tell you the truth, what we see going on in front of us, I think I look at it a little bit differently. I know a lot of true progressives or true leftists are saying, well, look, we told you they were going to spend all this money on all these things, and now they're not going to do it. Well, we're not even getting the reasons why or the reasons for. We're not getting that debate. And we know deep down inside, fam, we know where our money is going, and it's not going to the programs that help the people.
Right. I mean, they notice how the whole time they highlighted these things: more jobs, healthcare, climate, taking care of kids and seniors. And we're going to read this, or we're going to play this video by Jamal Bauman. But and Cori Bush. But guys, like, they've highlighted that and they haven't talked about anything else. Bernie Sanders just did a whole panel on what's in the bill. And not once did you hear about the tax on the mileage. Did you hear about the $600 IRS deposit, IRS monitoring? You don't hear about all the draconian things like the money for oil pipelines. You don't hear about all these things when they're discussing what's in the bill. And again, they shouldn't have to do that. It should be public knowledge. It should be short and sweet, but it's not, because they have to put in whatever they want. And at the end of the day, they get you in through highlighting, oh, child care expansion, Medicare expansion, free college tuition, and they don't do any of that. So that's to reel you in and to get public support. And then eventually it folds down to nothing and you get nothing but the bad parts of the bill. So let's hear how Jamal Bauman and Cori Bush are still painting this, just so you guys see that while this is going on, they're still trying to salvage the image that this is somehow a good bill.
Center the grassroots, making sure we center those that are most vulnerable. If we cut back Medicare expansion, we cut back on our seniors. We cut back on people who need health care. If you work in this country, if you work full-time in this country, you should have access to quality health care, dental, optical, and hearing. The climate crisis is here. Hurricane Ida just destroyed New York and New Jersey. 50 people were killed. We got to go big on climate change. And obviously, we have to take care of our children. If we don't take care of our children, there is no future democracy. How are we going to negotiate and cut back on any of that?
All right. So
I couldn't hear it. My
bad. Okay. So basically what he was saying was, we're here, we can't give in. We want to expand Medicare. We want to expand childcare. We want to expand all these things, but they're not talking about, that it's not really going to happen. They're also not mentioning all the bad parts of the bill. They're also acting like they're the victims, like, oh, we can't do this because Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Again, there's always a boogeyman. If it's not the Republicans in charge, right, where they can just say, oh, it's the Republicans, then it's the moderate Democrats. If they actually wanted to do anything, they would. If Biden actually wanted to enact some of these policies, he could as president via executive order. But that's not changing. And I want to really highlight this video. So let's make sure you can hear it, Pasta, because this is Jayapal, somebody that I used to like a few years ago, that was a prominent, major player when it came to Medicare for all in Congress, right? Bernie Sanders was in the Senate. Her bill, the Jayapal bill, was in Congress, and she is pretty much giving accolades after meeting with Biden, knowing that Biden is going to gut the vast majority of the good things in this bill, leaving us with all the terrible things and all the things that most people don't know that are in the bill, because it's a 2,700 page fucking bill. So let's hear what she says.
And I think that there are lots of possibilities on the table, some of which might be in the bill, some of which may not be. And so we just need to continue to look at the final agreement around that, because I don't think there is a final agreement there, but we're hopeful that we're going to get to a significant investment in climate.
How would you describe the president's role right now? Is he the closer, and did he talk to you about any deadlines that he wants if it's not October 31st, which of course the House Speaker has said?
The president is the inspirer. He is the closer. He is the convincer. The mediator in chief. He really is doing a phenomenal job.
But to follow up on that, what about deadlines? Did he talk about deadlines?
I mean, I think we're trying to get this, trying to get to a real close as quickly as possible.
What's the likelihood you'll reach a deadline? Does he sound frustrated with what's going on? Is he taking a tougher stance? Is he basically saying, get this done?
The president has been nothing but respectful of all that we're trying to accomplish, all that he's trying to accomplish in his Build Back Better agenda. And these conversations have been really great. They're really conversational. Others should say how they feel about this, but really conversational, really important listening sessions for him to hear from our members and for us to hear from him.
Nothing. Hot air, platitudes, BS. And not for nothing, fam. What about the goddamn freaking journalists that are out there? Can they ask any decent questions? We've been in a room with these people before, right? And we're like looking around like, this is our friggin' media. The Convo Couch just kicked your ass. Even Lauren Steiner jumped in that whole situation when we had it over there. I mean, these people are there. I mean, they are selected to be there for a reason. They are not real journalists. They are not the real opposition. They are not holding these people accountable. It's just a bunch of fluff. Well, what do you think about Joe Biden and whatnot? Like, remember him in the car? The same questions. We have a fugazi press corps, ladies and gentlemen, and nothing is going to change because they are part of the act. They are the role players in the theater that this establishment is doing and playing out in front of us.
It's really just beyond disappointing, I think, to a lot of people who still didn't realize that people like Jayapal and the squad are not really on their side. They're just going to do what they need to do to keep their careers, to keep themselves safe. That's what politics has become. It's not about serving the public. It's about making sure that you save your ass for another day so you can maintain power, so you can continue living now the life that you have. That's what it is. I mean, this is the person that said not that long ago, we will not back down. We're not going to stop. And here she is giving accolades to Joe Biden for his beyond incremental. I mean, this isn't even incremental anymore. It's detrimental what they're trying to pass. It's absolute garbage, especially after a quote unquote pandemic, right? And an economic depression. Because make no mistake, we are in an economic depression that's just beginning, and it's going to get worse because of everything happening with coronavirus. Now, this particular thing really irritated me because she's saying Biden is the mediator, the negotiator. What exactly is he negotiating? He's negotiating nothing. You're going to get expansion of Medicare that is less than what Hillary Clinton advocated for. Hillary Rodham Clinton, are you serious? You're going to get nothing. And progressives are still saying they're fighting for us. They're not fighting for you. They're fighting for the agenda. And again, I'm not even going to get into what Build Back Better is and how awful it is in general, but not even the good parts of that are getting through. It's really, really, I mean, it's a clown show, really, what they're doing with Biden, just giving him accolades, acting like he's the best thing when he's been a disastrous president, more of a warmongering president than the last. And it's absolute garbage. And the Democrats are setting themselves up for a disaster with the election. And it's just gonna play out like that, right? It just goes, oh, Republicans, and then we have to beat the Republicans, oh, the Democrats, and then the Democrats fail, and then Republicans. That's it. That's what all you have to look forward to in electoral politics, which is why this is no longer gonna work.
somebody, I missed their comment and stuff, but I think they say Biden is negotiating. He's negotiating for oatmeal cookies at nap time, fam. I don't know. Come on, man. He's negotiating something. But yeah, fam, like I said, this is just all, when I see this playing out in front of me in this moment in time, I mean, I just got to say, we are in a scary, scary place right there. We have no friends in Washington whatsoever. And the fact that they can pull all these theatrics, and a lot of progressives fall for this. A lot of people get their bumper sticker and they put it on their car and say, yeah, build back better. It's scary times right now, because we have nothing of significance for the people to help them out. And if we do have something of significance, we don't know where it's coming from, how it's going to be implemented, if something is going to be cut to replace it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe when it comes to a lot of these things, and I was looking at, we were talking about that whole, and that's the robust debate we need to have. We need to be able to say, okay, about the automatic registration, we need to have exactly where it's coming from. So we have that, just rich conversations, and the people will have a great knowledge, and they'll have a lot of information to make an informed consent moving forward. We don't have that mechanism in play. We just have theater.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to finish this up by reading what AOC has said.
Oh.
She said, we cannot advance legislation that makes the climate crisis worse. The Exxon-designed bipartisan infrastructure plan worsens emissions, but pairing it with clean energy and Build Back Better neutralizes BIF's harm and lets us tackle the climate crisis. We cannot afford to gut it. Again, it looks like the heart of President Biden's agenda, according to the New York Times, a push to replace coal and gas-fired power plants, is said to likely be cut from the budget because Senator Joe Manchin opposes it. So because Joe Manchin opposes it, Biden just can't do anything. Do you see how they frame this? Oh, it's all Joe Manchin's fault. Oh, Biden is just an innocent bystander. He has no power. So it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Obviously, if they wanted to do something, they're not going to combat climate crisis at all. At all. The bill is full of money for oil pipelines. Guys, it's full of it. So they're not going to do that. They were never going to do that. But notice how the squad is like upset, right? Woe is me. This isn't okay. We need to have the Build Back Better part that's good and it's going to tackle climate change attached to it, when that was never the intention at all. And Marx is good at Dem Sellout said, we're going to end up with the IRS surveilling $600 transactions, a tax on driving, and a kick in the teeth. And that's exactly what you're going to end up with after the shenanigans go through with this bill, because that's all that they really care to actually pass. And what would be the solution? Well, the solution would be for people who are striking right now to, merge with people who are upset about this, who said, hey, you said this, and that, squad. You're not going to fight for it. We're going to storm DC until you do. That's what needs to happen. But that's going to be upon the people to have the impetus to organize something like that. It doesn't matter how many letters you write, how many phone calls you make at this point. These people are puppets. They're not in control. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to take power back through direct action. And that's really the only way, where you can't depend on the squad. They've shown you time and time again that they're going to fold. Progressives in the caucus have showed you that they're going to fold. That's where we're at. And one of the reasons they're folding is because they receive money from corporate interests. Now, they may not receive money blatantly from dark money, but it's actually through little PACs. Now, Robbie Yeager, in his Politify newsletter, outlined a couple things that I wanted to go over, Pasa. And Robbie brings the receipts. And he talked about this. And this is something that people get, turned off when you say Soros, because, it's a right-wing thing. No, dude. Soros is involved in a lot of things. And he's not the only one, but he is one of a few who have their hands on dark money. Now, the Soros Foundation gave tens of millions of dark money to progressive groups in 2020. And he talks about the bad groups, but he also talks about the progressives that receive dark money. And according to a recent update to the Open Societies Foundation's online grant database, that's the Soros Foundation, Soros's nonprofit network spent tens of millions of dollars funding, quote, progressive and center-left political groups during the 2020 presidential election year, some of which had a major impact on the funding of pro-Democrat super PACs and advertising campaigns, as well as anti-Republican advertising campaigns. Soros' money extended to progressive orgs like the $9 million given to the Working Families Organizations, the nonprofit arm of the Working Families Party, whose super PAC raised over $7 million in 2020, and whose largest donor was Soros's Democracy PAC, which gave $1 million. The Working Families Party Independent Expenditure Committee spent $1.9 million on ads supporting Joe Biden, Raphael Warnock, and John Ossoff, as well as smaller buys supporting the Justice Democrats, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. So again, this is who's contributing to the progressive. This is why they're not really progressive, as Cynthia McKinney said. Other groups were the Sunrise Movement. The Sunrise Movement, which Robbie has been talking about for a while now, was given $1 million during the year. The Sunrise would go on to spend thousands on election advertising, pushing Justice Democrat politicians like AOC and Bernie Sanders in the early part of the cycle before swapping over to support Biden during the general. Most of the spending was through its super PAC, whose largest outside donor was the 1630 fund, $500,000, followed by Soros's Democracy PAC, who chipped in another $250,000. And the Sunrise Movement has received at least $1.5 million from Open Society Foundation since 2019, making the Soros Network their largest donor yet to be identified. Guys, this isn't a joke. You can go find this yourself, but Robbie is the one that is really good at finding these things. And People's Action is the other progressive branded group who received $900,000 from Open Society and would go on to spend approximately as much funding political groups during the election, mostly their super PAC, through which they spent $1 million on in-kind contributions to Joe Biden, Warnock, and John Ossoff in the form of staff time and canvassing initiatives. Likewise, the Center for Popular Democracy received $720,000, while their 501c4 CPD Action would get over $600,000. And they funded their in-house super PAC to the tune of $900,000 after starting the cycle endorsing Bernie Sanders. Then they went and campaigned for Joe Biden. So if you notice this trend is they say, oh, we're going to support these progressives, AOC, Bernie Sanders. Then as soon as the general hits, they turn and they support the establishment. That's why Soros is funding these people, because they end up doing that. They wouldn't get the funding otherwise. This is the dark money aspect of it, guys. This is how they, people say, well, they're not funded by oil and stuff. No, now because they know what's up, this is what they do to get people to think, oh, these groups are not, they're not taking this terrible money, as they create these PACs through Soros that have different names, right? And then they do it that way. No surprise.
Well, it's money sent from NGOs are mostly just money for a cloak. It's a cloaking device, right? Okay. Most of your NGOs out there, like the National Endowment for Democracy or the American Organization of States and all that stuff like that, are fronts in which, the government had to switch over from giving just direct assistance to people. They would use this as a cloaking device. So when you see a lot of these NGOs, you best believe that's really, it's dark money. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a tactic they use. It is a wolf in sheep's clothing, as you will. And you can just see the way they pivot from going, oh, we're going to support AOC and Bernie Sanders, to immediately pivoting to support the establishment and the establishment candidates. So, I mean, that's how they do that. And they can also get more funding too, as well, through the government itself for some of these NGOs. So it's just one of those situations where a lot of people can identify these things. And this is something else too, as well, which I've found in a lot of other bills. When you see this, it's a red light. My ears perk up. It's like, oh, they're going to get more NGOs so they can give that money to the NGOs. And what do the NGOs always do, fam? They sound like there's something great. The National Endowment for Democracy. Oh, they're fighting for democracy. No, it's a front for the CIA and their regime change. And that's what you get with a lot of this money over here. They're funneled through these NGOs that might sound good. And not every NGO is bad, but most are. You have to understand who's funding these NGOs, who's in control of these NGOs. And if it's people like Soros, it's the darkest of dark money out there, period. Especially, he's a regime change aficionado, that guy. So you can just imagine, where and when he's going to get his money and how he's going to funnel it through. People should put their ears up and go, wait, this is no bueno.
Yep. And that's it, fam.
All right. Let's see if we got some super rays. We'll get on over there really quickly. So we do have some super rays, fam. And by the way, on YouTube's 270 people, hit the like button. Go on over to Rokfin if you can. Share, get it out. Anything you can do, that would be great. There are 7 people watching on Odyssey. Any word Odyssey isn't odd. He gave us a little 5 library thing. That's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. My Odyssey is not giving me a volume control, so I can't. But yes, thank you so much for those people on Odyssey. On Rokfin, let me get to the super race as we are here. So we already said Trey Wright and Rob McMurtry. Kristen, thank you for the super Ray contribution. It is appreciated on the couch. Jackie Pagao, how you doing, Jackie? Good to see you. Biden is doing a phenomenal job. Question mark, explanation, question mark, explanation. Like, huh? Jayapal actually thinks she can sell that bullshit. Listen, Jayapal, and Oz can tell you about that. This particular politician over here, she supported Adam Smith, the biggest warmonger on the Democratic Party, the guy who helped write the budget for the Pentagon, right? She supported him over Sarah Smith. And that was just, right there was a big red flag for me. And I was a big no-no. And she was willing to play ball early and often. And a lot of other decisions that a lot of people didn't take note of. Biden is even worse than we thought he's going to be, which I didn't even think was possible. Yes, Jackie, he said, hold my beer. The so-called progressives are clowns who serve the party and not the people. And that was said by Jackie Pagao and not me. And I agree 1,000% with Jackie Pagao. And Selma Caraca, thank you for the super red contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Bam. Enough excitement?
What's going on? Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about what's going on over here, because this is kind of a little shaky situation where I got to watch what I'm saying, because I don't want to come off as like I'm saying that I am a defender of Steve Bannon. But it was like that slippery slope with Alex Jones, right? Once they start doing this, once they deplatform Alex Jones, that gave them the green light to deplatform anybody, or monitor or censor people or demonetize anybody. And it's really a scary thing. That's why when it comes to our civil liberties, we must be consistent. But we also must be consistent when it comes to witch hunts and whatnot. Let's take a look at this really quick. Just the other day, the January 6th committee votes to hold Steve Bannon in contempt. Notice that the January 6th committee is starting when? In November, close to November. Because November, December comes around, and here comes January. It's less than 3 months away. So they're going to start rolling out this rhetoric again. They're going to talk about, it's the reunion of January 6th again, the day they try to overturn our democracy, a bunch of nationalists and what do they call us? Domestic terrorists and all that stuff, and blah, blah, blah. When you don't want to accept the election results, that's what you are. So let's take a look at this, because this is a lot of theater, and it's something we have to look cautiously, because if you could start going on a witch hunt without any proper evidence, and just look at the evidence they start to cite. This is from the committee put that together by Nancy Pelosi the other day, where Liz Cheney, we should be listening to. Why should we be listening to Cheneys ever again? We should never listen to another Cheney as long as we live. Here we are. Let's start the first clip.
On January 6th, a mob breached the security perimeter of our Capitol, assaulted and injured more than 140 police officers, engaged in hand-to-hand violence over an extended period, and invaded and occupied the United States Capitol building, all in an effort to halt the lawful counting of electoral votes and reverse the results of the 2020 election. The day before this all occurred, on January 5th, Mr. Bannon publicly professed knowledge that, quote, all hell is going to break loose tomorrow, end quote. He forecast that the day would be, quote, extraordinarily different than what most Americans expected. He said to his listeners and his viewers, quote, so many people said, if I was in a revolution, I would be in Washington. Well, he said, this is your time in history. Based on the committee's investigation, it appears that Mr. Bannon had substantial advanced knowledge of the plans for January 6th, and likely had an important role in formulating those plans. Mr. Bannon was in the war room at the Willard on January 6th. He also appears to have detailed knowledge regarding the president's efforts to sell millions of Americans the fraud that the election was stolen. In the words of many who participated in the January 6th attack, the violence that day was in direct response to President Trump's repeated claims from election night through January 6th that he had won the election. The American people are entitled to Mr. Bannon's firsthand testimony about all of these relevant facts. But as the chairman noted, Mr. Bannon is refusing to provide it. Preserving our Constitution and the rule of law is a central purpose of this investigation. The plain fact here is that Mr. Bannon has no legal right to ignore the committee's lawful subpoena. So far, Mr. Bannon's excuse is that former President Trump wishes to invoke some form of executive privilege for a subset of the relevant topics. President Trump's direct communications with Mr. Bannon regarding the planning for January 6th. This information should not be subject to any privilege at all.
Okay, let me say this much, just jumping right in, that if somebody gets subpoenaed, yeah, they have the right to, they should show up if they're subpoenaed and whatnot. But this is just taking something way out of context, taking vague opinions and using it to try to, you know, kind of frame the narrative that he knew that what's going on, and he knew direct knowledge of what was going on. And I don't want to talk too much about, you know, what happened January 6th. I will tell you that, you know, whatever people believe, they have the right to question anything. That's up to them if the people want to show up. But using these vague details and these vague words, I mean, I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, wait, they can go back to our videos and saying that, you know, we're kind of inciting violence or whatnot once we start questioning things. You know, all hell is going to break loose is a reason we're saying, oh, he had direct knowledge of what's going on. What does he mean by all hell is going to break loose? Well, yeah, there's a bunch of pissed off citizens that are at the gates and they're showing up there because they're aggravated and upset. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
wait, so for the record, our videos were simply documenting what happened on January 6th. So we should not be incriminating ourselves in any way, shape, or form. We were simply documenting what happened there at that time. And, you know, the elections have been called. Whatever you think is the issue, what is happening here is the accusations are relying on vague statements and correlations rather than actual detailed evidence, which is what the criticism may be. But yeah, I mean,
I think you hit it right on the nose there, fam. I only got another small part of this video too as well, because once again, we have to just be careful what we say. But yes, the citizens have the right to question whatever they want. It's their right to do so, you know, despite what was called or anything like that. So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And using these vague kind of terms to kind of, once again, paint a narrative for the media so you can get your message out there, really not taking anything serious without any hard evidence. It's really kind of mind-blowing right now because they can go and do this to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Because once they start the whole process, oh, we're just subpoenaing him so we can get the answers. But then what do? You know what I'm saying? Now you can really further your message or your propaganda even further by using no real solid information to even subpoena the man in the first place. So did you have anything else to say before we play the second part?
No.
All right.
And certainly there is no basis for absolute or unqualified privilege for presidential communications. More important now, there is no conceivably applicable privilege that could shield Mr. Bannon from testimony on all of the many other topics identified in this committee's subpoena. Because he has categorically refused to appear, we have no choice but to seek consequences for Mr. Bannon's failure to comply. Those consequences are not just important for this investigation. They are important for all congressional investigations. Mr. Bannon's and Mr. Trump's privilege arguments do, however, appear to reveal one thing. They suggest that President Trump was personally involved in the planning and execution of January 6th. And this committee will get to the bottom of that.
Yeah. The media spin, fam, is crazy. If you look at all the articles, they're just going nuts. Oh, Steve Bannon was criminally charged. No, he wasn't. He was just subpoenaed over there. He wasn't criminally charged with anything yet. They want to criminally charge it, but something else that really bothers me about this whole situation, it is allowing them to keep Trump in the fold. It's allowing them to keep Trump into the mainstream media so they can use him as the boogeyman so they don't have to do any real work. And that's the thing that really bothers me about this whole thing. They're not letting it go. They're still feeling like they have to seek out answers and get to the bottom of what's going on to figure out what happened on this day, because it was such an awful day. The only thing she didn't do, I was surprised she didn't do, is she didn't say an officer was killed that day. So, but aside from that, she did this is all the bells and whistles. This is the same thing the Democratic establishment did. This is the person who pushed back too as well when it came to any regulations as far as looking at what Donald Trump was doing when he let a treaty expire between Russia and the United States. When Tulsi Gabbard was calling for, hey, we have to extend this treaty, or we have to at least know why. Trump has to tell the Congress why he's not extending this treaty. She was like, no, he doesn't. What's going on? When he wanted to remove the whole funding mechanism with Rand Paul for the Afghan war, her and a bunch of Democrats stopped it in the House. So this is the same person. The establishment is like the establishment, fam. You've said it before. It goes on both sides of the aisle. It's a two-party illusion, and Liz Cheney is definitely a part of it.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. Nobody here, I just wanted to reiterate, is defending anything about Steve Bannon's ideology. It's just the mechanisms which the establishment is using to promote this story yet again into the mainstream media headlines and make it all about how it was an insurrection and everything else. So that's the issue again regarding that. So I get it. There's been found that a lot of the people that were there that day were federal agents. So like we said it from the start, what you were told in mainstream media is not necessarily the accurate depiction of what actually happened.
Yeah. And you can see the media spin, and the longer they keep this alive, the longer they don't have to do any real work, right? The longer they can be distracted on this, and the people eat this shit up. If you look at the Insider, it says Steve Bannon not cooperating suggests Trump may have personally been involved in planning the execution of the January 6th insurrection. Liz Cheney says, I don't know how they can come to that conclusion. I really do not. And once again, this is not about defending Trump or Steve Bannon. This is about defending our civil liberties, because the more they get to stretch out this narrative, the more they get to push this propaganda, the more they get to infringe on our civil liberties. You know what I'm saying? We already know what they're going to be doing with the banks when it came to the reconciliation bill. Well, what did they do? Really, that was kind of off color and maybe not part of the law, was that they used bank accounts, people's ATM, their personal information when they access ATM, just to put people at the Capitol on January 6th. You know what I'm saying? And they justified it by using this kind of rhetoric and this kind of talk, which they're doing right here. That's the dangerous of this right over here. It says former White House advisor Steve Bannon's refusal to cooperate with the investigation into January 6th insurrection suggests he and former Donald Trump worked together to plan the day's action, Representative Liz Cheney charged on Tuesday. That's just laughable. The comments came during a meeting of the House Select Committee looking into the January 6th attack, which sought to prevent the certification of Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election. Based on the committee's investigation, it appears that Mr. Bannon had substantial advanced knowledge of the plans of January 6th and likely had an important role in formulating those plans. Cheney, a Republican from Wyoming, said at the meeting. A day before the unrest, Bannon promised viewers of his online show that all hell is going to break loose, as detailed in a report released this month by the committee. It's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen, he continued, adding that it's going to be quite extraordinarily different. All I can say is strap in. Bannon has refused to comply, and this is an important part to come along right here. This is another argument, another thing we have to look at, because in the future or in the past, is the qualified privilege, the executive privilege, does that qualify you to not have to be subpoenaed and talk? This is where I disagree with Bannon over here whatsoever, because just because you got an executive privilege or you've been pardoned for something else doesn't mean you are then free from committing any other crimes in the future. Bannon has refused to comply with the committee's subpoena to testify, citing the argument from former President Donald Trump's legal team that matters under consideration were subject to executive privilege. The principle that frank conversations between the president and his aides is not typically subject to congressional review. President Nixon invoked the same privilege during the Watergate scandal. You can see how they tie it together. An argument that was ultimately rejected by the Supreme Court in its ruling. The High Court said the privilege was not absolute and not necessarily applicable to a criminal proceedings. And that is something that's an area where, it's going to be contested. We hear this all the time. You're not in the room with these people, fam. There's not information they can get out there. They have executive privilege where their conversations are private. You know what I'm saying? I think they were talking about it when somebody said, well, we want to know all the conversations between Putin and Trump. And it was like, well, that's executive privilege. And a lot of people would talk historically. There was a lot of executive privilege from a lot of the presidents in the past where nobody had the right to know. When Khrushchev was talking to Kennedy or any of these leaders, they would get in a room when there was no microphones, there was nothing going on. They would have these conversations behind closed doors. So this is kind of an interesting area in which they're trying to use the claim for his defense, which I don't know is necessarily applicable, but the reasons in which they are going after him are kind of laughable. So
I agree that there's no, like, the privilege argument is a really dumb argument because of the Watergate scandal too. Like, there's a precedent for that. So why would you argue that? And I disagree that they should have executive privilege. I think all of their decisions should be privy to the public. What I wanted to highlight was the fact that they're taking what he said in a video as a sort of incitement, which is a big reach to say that just because you're saying this, you are now inciting an actual attack. It doesn't have an actual standing. And if the government does cross that barrier where they're going to take what somebody says, their opinion as to, what's happening, that could apply to everybody else. And that's the reason we're highlighting this, because it could apply to independent media. It could apply to anybody that says anything. And then you could be persecuted, which is where we're going, considering the domestic violent extremist labels that are happening everywhere. So even if you say something against the government that they don't like, then are they going to be able to prosecute you based on what you said? That is extremely draconian, and it's something that happens in a lot of the countries the U.S. Supposedly happens in a lot of the countries the U.S. tends to criticize. So it's interesting that that's happening. So that's just the main point.
That's the main reason why I brought that story up, fam. And thank you for highlighting that in the eloquent way that you do, because that is the most important part of this whole situation. Like, once we allow this to happen, just because it's Trump and just because it's Steve Bannon, we don't like Trump and Steve Bannon, that we allow this to happen, we don't say anything about it, it's going to come back and bite who in the ass? Us. And we've said this time and time before. We can see a way a lot of people on the left are censored now, just as well as people on the right. And it's once you let the devil in the door, and once you allow that mechanism to take part, when they can say, okay, they can take this person down because they don't like what he has to say, or they can go after this person because they don't like what he's have to say. What's going to stop them from coming after us? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, what he said on those shows, and once again, don't like Steve Bannon, don't support Donald Trump by any means whatsoever. But how are they, when a Republican's in charge and we start speaking this language, how are they not going to be able to come after us? We have to be very careful we cannot cheerlead this on. This is, and I hate to repeat the whole witch hunt, situation, because, I mean, obviously, once again, we're not going to make any opinions about what happened on January 6th. We were there and whatnot. But, if you allow something like this to happen, when you can just simply, from the words you say without any hard proof, it's not like, if they intercepted a phone call and say, okay, Steve Bannon was funding this person to go do this and this and that, then you got him, then go after him. But from what he said on his show, because he's, you know what I'm saying? And I think we've seen many examples, a lot of, especially on Fox and OAN and all those other channels, those right-wing establishment channels, when they show a bunch of people like Maxine Waters, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, when they're out in the street and they're having their rhetoric, we're going to march to the Capitol, we're going to fight. You know what I'm saying? This can easily sway either way. And we need to stop this type of mentality, and especially not rooting stuff like this on. Our civil liberties must be protected. And he was not inciting any violence. They were trying to draw the line to make it look like it was. And that's why I think this is just a scary topic right now, because they will get away with this and they will manufacture consent with people like Steve Bannon. But then who's on the list next?
Exactly.
Bruce Main. He said, welcome back, fams. Your work and perspective is much needed on the left right now.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Main, not Bruce Wayne.
Bruce.
Bruce Main.
So fam, when you go over this, just, we're just stating the facts from the article, right? Yeah. The CDC has said the vaccines are safe and effective. They reduce hospitalization. That's what they've said. So they have Merck put out this COVID pill, right? Similar to ivermectin, not exactly, but what's going on with this pill?
Okay. Well, we have an argument here right now like that. So a Storm Brews has over a 46 price markup, 46-time markup price of Merck's Thor-inspired COVID pill. And, we talked about this pill, that they're coming out with this pill. It's very similar to ivermectin, but now they're going to really stick it to you by charging you a lot more money. A storm is brewing over the pricing and licensing of Merck's antiviral pill, I can't even say this word right.
Molnupiravir,
which the pharmaceutical giant says they have halved the risk of hospitalization, and death in high-risk COVID-19 patients. Merck's advanced purchase agreement with the U.S. government pegs the price on a 5-day treatment of about $700, fam. But an independent analysis by the public health researchers at Harvard estimated the sustainable generic price with a 10% profit margin built in would be just $20 per treatment. Further, rival generic manufacturers in India are already expected to offer the drug at $15 or less for treatments once it is authorized for use. It's funny because remember people were dying in India because of COVID, because they didn't have the proper treatment. Now you can go to India to save your life because the price of a plane ticket and back might be less than $700 and it will cost you $15 for the drug. So take a vacation, go treat your COVID and then come on back. Given that the $700 price tag in the U.S. represents the 46-fold markup of the drug, which is named after Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. In the statement earlier this week, Doctors Without Borders, MSF, struck hard at the pricing as well as at Merck's licensing agreement. Instead of offering broad open licenses widely to all able manufacturers in different countries, a narrow voluntary license approved by Merck in April 2021 only includes Indian generic companies. South Asia's head of MFF's access campaign said in a statement, this hinders countries like Brazil from being able to produce and import generic versions and raw materials. Middle-income countries excluded from the license have 30 million COVID-19 infections in the first half of 2021. 50% of all infections in low and middle-income countries. So pretty much they're going to stick it to the poor people once again. Another strike against Merck's plans so far is that while its pharmaceutical giant is expected to reap billions in profits, it was not responsible for the drug's development. Merck is not recouping research and development costs here. Molnupiravir, I can't even say it, was developed by the researchers at Emory University with an estimated $35 million in federal funds. So they got funded by the government to do so, including grants from the National Institutes of Health and Defense Department. Okay, there's Fauci's fingerprint. The drug was in works for years before the pandemic. Pharmaceutical company Ridgeback Biotherapeutics bought the rights to the drug in early 2020 and partnered with Merck a few months later. Merck is not only selling this drug to the U.S. government at a 46% fold markup, it's selling the drug to U.S. government has already spent millions to develop. Industry analysts have projected that Merck will make $5.3 billion in sales in 2022 alone and $22 billion through 2030, according to Business Insider, fam. So they got funding from the government. It's a generic drug. It doesn't cost a lot to make. And now they are going to make a crazy amount of money ripping off the American public. Even if the government pays for it for a person, like they pay for the boop boop, right? It's still coming out of our tax dollars. And once again, why? I don't want to say anything. I forgot.
Yeah.
I stopped myself. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the skinny right there. Sorry.
So I just wanted to say that once again, I'm going to go and on a socialist tangent here. We wouldn't have this problem if we had a nationalized healthcare system, if we had control of the means of our healthcare. If you and I decided the means of our healthcare and these medicines that are supposed to combat a pandemic would actually be given at the cost that they're made. or at a low cost or a free cost, whatever the cost may be. That's the system allows for this to happen because there is no control. People talk about the free market. Well, this market isn't technically free when we live in an oligarchy, but it's still allowed. There's no regulations, there's nothing. So they're allowed to do this, to up the price of any sort of drug. And once again, making it less likely for somebody who is working class to have access to these drugs. And of course, they get richer as many in this pandemic have gotten poorer. And that's something to really point out of this whole thing, is that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And we have seen this happen time and time again.
Yeah. I can see the libertarians screaming, this is why we need to eliminate these regulations and not let them monopolize.
What regulations?
Yeah, well, I'm saying that the fact that they're going to just allow they're going to pass it on EUA, right? Emergency use authorization. They're going to pick who's able to sell it. They're going to pick the winners and losers is what they're going to claim. And now allow for other people to go out and produce this particular drug. Like they said, they're going to limit who can produce this particular drug in a generic form only in India. When, other people are going to say, well, this is a drug during a pandemic, which a lot of people should be able to produce. So therefore we can get it out to the public for a cheap price. So they are picking winners and losing, and they're actually creating monopolies themselves and uplifting monopolies. The government's doing that, instead of doing the right thing and making sure that everybody gets this at a fair price and cheap. If the government cared for us, right, fam?
Yeah, but they don't, though. So we need to not give them more power because this government isn't going to fix anything.
I love this next part. Go ahead. You go into this one. Robbie receipts.
Well, yeah, Robbie receipts. And I'm glad you put this in there because I wanted to talk about this. Robbie, once again, financial disclosures show multiple trusts belonging to Rep. Rokfin and his wife added up to $300,000 worth of Merck stock during the month of September, as well as the company was readying their COVID-19 pill. So again, they have access, just like Nancy Pelosi, just like other members of Congress, to know when this is going to go up, and they invest in this and then they make money. And people still call Rokfin a progressive. I mean, I just don't understand how these people, it's legalized theft is what these people do. And they get away with it because it's not technically illegal. Yeah. And again, you can see the picture of all of that. And his wife, of course, is extremely involved in Silicon Valley. That's where he makes his money. He's a Silicon Valley guy. So it's no surprise that Rokfin is involved in this.
This is insider trading, right? Okay, so now you know that you work in the government. You understand what's going on. You understand who's going to be able to get a hold of this drug, when they're going to put it out there. You understand who the mainstream media is going to pick winners and losers too as well. And now you invest a ton of money in the company before this pill hits the market. Once this pill hits the market, it's going to shoot the stocks right up. But you had an inside track to know what was going on, so you beat everybody to the beat right now. Right now, I know a lot of people like my mom and her friends. They should be probably investing in Merck. As the stock goes up, but think about where Rokfin got in. He got in really, really early, and he stands to make a lot more money before everybody else. This game is rigged. It's not a fair game whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? This is legal inside trading that should be illegal. People in Congress should not be able to buy stocks whatsoever because they're going to be able to regulate the laws and the rules, and they're going to be able to pick contracts and winners. It's just an unfair game, and they're going to have an inside track. If we know, remember the whole thing with Tesla, we're sitting there in the room and we're negotiating with Tesla, and we know that they're the one who's going to get the contract for the state or for the government when it comes to, okay, we're going to solar powered energy here and there, and they're going to get a huge contract. Of course, it's going to shoot their stock up. These people already know because they're negotiating on behalf of the contract. So it's legalized freaking. All right, good.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay. So, fams, I'm going to go on to the next section. And this section, again, I'm just going to reiterate the information because this has been out in mainstream media. And this is what's happening, that college kids are under massive surveillance right now because of the pandemic. And a lot of them have actually taken the vaccine and done their part. However, there are still draconian requirements happening while they're at school because of the pandemic. So COVID-19 precautions, and this is from the Wall Street Journal, prompt backlash on college campuses. Some students push back against surveillance and other measures they see as going too far. Okay, and I'm just going to read the caption under here. At the University of Southern California, where 95% of students are vaccinated, proof of a weekly negative COVID test is required to enter campus, despite students being vaccinated. Student complaints include objections to restrictions on their travel on and off campus, increased surveillance, and what they consider erosion of civil liberties. Student-led petitions have prompted some schools to drop the use of location tracking apps and requirements to wear sensors that monitor vital signals, vital signs. At the core of their concern is a fear that universities are constructing a bureaucracy designed to control a generation just coming of age. This is what somebody said, quote, "It feels like the school is blackmailing me. They get all this personal information, and in exchange, I get an education." Dan Smith, a graduate student studying labor history at Wayne State University in Detroit, said, "It's the growth of the surveillance state. These are college kids understanding that this is a little bit draconian. Around 3/4 of students are in favor of vaccine mandates. That's about 75%. This is according to surveys. University faculty are also broadly supportive of them, and some of them have protested at schools where the vaccines are not required. This fall, what is riling up students are precautions they see as going too far, especially on campuses where vaccination rates are nearly universal. Protests and petitions have popped up at least 40 schools pushing back against vaccine and mask mandates. Some are coming from the same groups that complained before the pandemic that their schools are becoming as heavily surveilled as prisons. At the University of Southern California, 95% of students are vaccinated, yet they still need the weekly negative COVID test to enter campus. Students must leave classrooms to take a sip of water rather than just sliding their mask down. Security guards circulate in the library, and student union reminding students to cover their noses and mouth with their masks, said sophomore Maren Reese. "It just feels like overreach," Miss Reese said. "You wonder, where is all this medical information going? Can professors see it?" Michigan has seen its share of reprisals. Students at Oakland University near Detroit successfully pushed back against a wearable, quote, bio button designed to monitor their heart rate, temperature, respiration, and warn the school if a student was showing signs of COVID-19. At Albion College in Albion, Michigan, students petitioned the school to drop an app that monitored their location on and off campus. Last week, Western Michigan University lost a federal appeal to require student athletes to be vaccinated to play. And Montana State University instituted a policy to place students on probation who have twice been reported by a professor for not wearing a mask. A third complaint results in a semester suspension. A fourth mask offense is grounds for expulsion. The expansion of video proctoring inside student homes during the pandemic has also prompted backlash. Millions of college students now take exams online while monitored through their computer camera by an employee of a proctoring company or software designed to detect any movement that could be construed as cheating. I am thanking the days that I am not an undergrad right now. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, many universities were already recording students' faces with video surveillance cameras, tracking their movements with GPS, and monitoring their message on social media and email. Schools also regularly detail students' study habits through digital textbooks records when they enter building, log their presence in class, the library, and even the football game. All of these relatively new tracking technologies are in addition to years-old systems that leverage students' IDs to monitor how frequently they are entering gyms, dorms, and cafeterias. Mandates have added an additional level of scrutiny, even those not on campus. A New Jersey student was barred from taking classes at Rutgers University because he hasn't been vaccinated, even though he's taking all of his classes online from home. And the student, Sarah Razi, a New Jersey chair for Young Americans for Liberty, a libertarian organization with chapters at colleges across the country, helped organize 2 protests against vaccine mandates and mask mandates at Rutgers, where she sees, quote, creeping authoritarianism. The vaccination rate among students at the school is about 95%. Recently, Ms. Razi took off her mask in the library to take a sip of coffee, and a librarian reprimanded her, she said. This woman said, "You're violating the mask policy," Ms. Razi said. I told her, "What's the problem? I'm drinking a cup of coffee." She said, "I don't care. Put it on." So again, this is what's happening. And Pasta, I know you're going to want to rant about this, but let's do it on Rokfin only. I know this is intense, and it's hard not to say anything. But this is at the very least, let's talk about the surveillance overreach. Now we're monitoring students who aren't even in school. You're monitoring their every activity. Your parents don't even monitor you this much. I mean, my mom sometimes monitors my sister via her Snapchat, but you know, but you know, parents do this stuff, but that's parents. This is the school. This is a third party exam proctor. Let's talk about the surveillance state aspect of this. Why is this, you know, an overreach of our civil liberties here? Because students are at this point in college 18 years old. They, you know, they're adults. And obviously they have the right to say, hey, as an adult, I'm not okay with this. Yeah. So just on the surveillance state. Yeah.
On the surveillance state, like, it's like, what's next? We're going to start chipping people. You know, like, we're literally, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And the data mining of these people, when you start collecting their information, who is that collecting that data? Who's going to have that data? How do we know that data is secure? You know, you're talking about outsourcing surveillance when people are doing online classes and whatnot. So if you start outsourcing all this information, this data is not secure. Our personal information will never be secure. So, I mean, that's the only 3 comments I have right there. Whatnot. It's very scary. Every aspect of this, whatnot. And this is something we talk about all the time, about the data mining that's out there, these third parties that are kind of, you know, holding on to all this data, and they have free range to our data. Well, they can do anything with that data they want whatsoever. So that's just one scary part about that, this particular situation that's going on. I mean, this is like crazy, frightening stuff. So really,
right. And I just want to reiterate that the vast majority of these universities, the students are 95% inoculated with the vaccine. They took their part, they did their part, and they're still required to take tests, right? They're still being required to do this. And then they're also now required to be monitored and also, you know, wear the mask. And now how, you know, when they take it off, when they sit for a drink, now that's up, you know, for debate. So it creates this whole, like, the teachers are now, you know, cops. They're acting like they have to have some sort of authority. And it's a slippery slope into, is this an environment that students want to be in? Are students going to drop out because they don't want to feel like they're in prison? These are their words. They said it feels like a prison. So it's interesting to see young people push back against this as everything is happening, because now the next part that I'm going to get to, if you thought that was scary, here is what a full passport beyond vaccination will look like. Now, here is Thales. It is pretty much what we would call a regular ID wallet, something that you would have, like you have your wallet on your iPhone. Well, you can have, you know, your airline ticket, you can have your bank card. All of that is very handy a lot of times. You know, we humans, especially younger people, we want to have access to things at a digital level because we are, you know, we're more used to the digital age. But the problem is, when does that go too far? When does the government's surveillance become overreach? When does the government get access to all of your information? So this is Thales. It's a 3-minute plus video, but it's worth every minute. Just watch it and we'll discuss.
Hello everyone, meet Lucy, student in psychology, and me, her digital ID wallet issued by the government to offer a wide range of identity services. In fact, I'm a handy way of proving and protecting her identity both online and face-to-face. Let's have a closer look at what I can do. I can help governments to better communicate with citizens. Right now, I'm reminding Lucy of the appointment she needs to schedule for her mandatory vaccination. Time to go to her exam. Lucy is a bit stressed out. I'm here to make it easy for her to prove she is the right candidate, with a quick and secure connection between her phone and the examiner's. Exam passed successfully. Quick stop at the doctor's before celebrating, and no time to lose. On the way, Lucy uses me to declare her passport lost. She needs it for her upcoming road trip. No issue. She can request an emergency digital passport without having to go to the authority office. I make official admin a lot smoother. And that's not all. I can also help Lucy request a birth certificate, pay her taxes, or prove who she is when onboarding to new services, such as opening a bank account. I allow Lucy to certify her healthcare coverage entitlement. She's able to decide whether to authorize the doctor to access her medical records or not, ensuring her control over her personal data. Lucy needs one more thing before being all set for her trip to Australia: renting a car. I help her share her driver's license credentials online so that she doesn't have to wait hours in a queue to collect the car when she gets to Brisbane. The rental company benefits from secure and accurate information, and Lucy from a smooth experience. Lucy's friends are waiting for her inside the bar. To allow her to get in, I simply generate a QR code that proves Lucy is old enough, so she doesn't have to share all her ID details with the bar staff. So yes, I'm Lucy's best companion. I protect her identity and official credentials wherever she goes. I provide secured access to public and private services and allow her to have full control over her data privacy. In other words, I give the right access to the right data to the right person. I am also trusted by governments to best support countries' digital transformation, fight against ID fraud, and deliver smooth public services. I am the Thales Digital ID Wallet.
Hey, well, what do you think?
Well, I think they should
Just,
just cut through the cheese, and if they want to make us robots, just do it right now, right? You know what I'm saying? Just plug us on in. You know, they want to track you every single step of the way. How do people look at this and go, wow, look at that technology. It's great. No, this is scary. You know, I'm surprised when they say Thales will help you go to the bathroom by letting you know if you should stand up or sit down. Like, I mean, it was like, what are they going to say next? Every single step of the way. This is complete authoritarian control. This is crazy. This is just beyond scary.
Okay. I agree with you, fam. I agree with you. I 100% think this is a lot. You know, look, some people are not going to think this is a big deal. Look, they notice how they make it look like, oh, it's so easy. Look, I'm just, you know, she's controlling this. No, she's not. All of her information is in one place for the government to reach. All of her medical data, they can access it whenever she wants. That QR code that she trades with the doctor is just a QR code that allows him to have the information. It's not the doctor that's the problem. It's the government that already has all that information amassed. That's the issue. How much is the government allowed to have into your private life, into everything you do? Now, you know, they're basically just data mining us. This is all part of the fourth industrial revolution. This is what Klaus Schwab talked about at Davos. He talked about they want to merge humans with technology. This is the next step. Now, this is something that a lot of the left has completely been silent on because they were focused on the labor movement, which is what we want to do, but we're not going to have a labor movement if we have complete control and surveillance by the government. That's what people need to understand. This is why we're really big on this channel on civil liberties, on the surveillance state, because if they monitor everything you do, you're not going to be able to organize. This has never happened in history before. This didn't happen during the 1917 Russian Revolution. Absolutely, you had giant, powerful interests, but you didn't have big tech giants, and you didn't have this fourth industrial revolution and all these apps that are being created to monitor your every move. They're not going to want you to step out of line. They want you to comply on everything. And this is about ID wallets. This isn't about even mandates. Now, this is the use of that sort of technology beyond that. That is what is the scary part. The surveillance state coming in, we are already decreasing protesting rights. We're already decreasing our civil liberties, our free speech. We're censoring people left and right. Now, they're going to know everything about you with one touch, and people are going to welcome this, saying, well, it's easy. Look, I just get... No, it's not about again, we always talk about this when we talk about elections. It's about facility, but it's also about security. Do you really want the government to have access to everything that is you? It's not the same thing as an ID. You obviously show an ID to a bartender or to a door guy to say, hey, I'm 21 and up, I can drink alcohol. That's not the same thing. With you showing them that pass, it's not about the door guy. The door guy doesn't care. It's about that being in one place where the government, and not the government, just these corporations who run the government, to easily access. It is scary, scary things. And I want to salute once again the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal, and another journalist for writing an article kind of summarizing a lot of what we've been talking about for a while, what Whitney Webb has been talking about, what Cory Morningstar has been talking about. Cory Morningstar will be on the show on Friday. And that's probably going to have to be a Rokfin only thing once we go talk with her. I'm sorry, guys, but it's going to have to be. But she's been really on this since the get-go, so we're really going to get her opinions on this. So yeah, this is scary. It's one of the scariest things I've seen. It's scary how they paint it like this thing is your best friend. It's like your little pal. It's like you take it everywhere. Yay. No, dude. Along with the robot dogs and the guns. And think about it, guys. Think about it. That's all.
What do we got next?
So the next part of this that I wanted to highlight was that the White House has announced their plan to roll out to vaccinate children. Now, this is directly from VOA News, right? And they basically announced today that their plan is to vaccinate every child from age 5 to 11 in the United States, pending the approval of the Pfizer vaccine for children in the next few weeks. So look for that in the next few weeks. This is a virtual briefing with reporters. The White House coronavirus coordinator, Jeff Zients, said that the Biden administration has been working with state and local officials for the past several weeks to ensure that vaccinations for young children are safe and readily available. He said they have worked with Pfizer to make packaging easier for pediatricians and other family doctors to provide vaccines to children, including providing smaller needles. Zients said the White House has enrolled more than 25,000 pediatricians, family doctors, children's hospitals, pharmacies, and community and rural health centers to help distribute the vaccines. U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy said that they want trusted doctors and other health experts to speak about the safety of the vaccinations if and when they are approved, in an attempt to head off any politics or misinformation that may make parents hesitant to get their children vaccinated. It's possible that it may not be approved for children, but they want the system in place. Likely it will be approved, guys, because this is what they're telling you. It'll be rolling out. So look out for that. And again, we're going to talk more about Pfizer in the Rokfin only section coming up in a little bit. And then the last thing on this section that I really wanted to point out was that there has been a pushback from certain corporations, one of them being In-N-Out. They said, we refuse to become the vaccination police. We fiercely disagree with any government that forces a private company to discriminate against customers. This is clear governmental overreach and is intrusive, improper, and offensive. This is a San Francisco-based In-N-Out that got in trouble for not closing, for it closed partially to the public besides takeout because they refused to follow the mandate where they had to verify people's vaccination order. Now, San Francisco is one of the most strict areas where everybody must pretty much present a vaccine card or a digital vaccine card to show that you have been fully vaccinated in order to go into restaurants, bars, any events. Just like New York, San Francisco is even worse than LA as far as how strict they are. Los Angeles is now going to start that in November. We've talked about this. And this is, by the way, the city's only In-N-Out. And again, people are pushing back. And so they also said, as a company, In-N-Out Burger strongly believes in the highest form of customer service. And to us, that means serving all customers who visit us and making all customers feel welcome. We refuse to become the vaccination police for any government. So just wanted to point that out. And that's it for this section. Fams, do you want to talk about our next venture, CPI?
Yeah. So everybody, I'm going to read the comment. Trey left a comment on Rokfin. We're going to read it when we go over to Rokfin only, Trey. So just hold on there for a second. We will get to you. So what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, is I don't know if we kind of mentioned it the other day. Did we not, fam? About us going to Nicaragua, right?
Yes.
So the FAMs are going to Nicaragua, going to the Global South, heading down there to observe their elections. This opportunity was presented to us by our friends at CPI, Center for Political Innovation. Innovation. Yes, that's what I said. Caleb Malpin, one of the friends of the fam, friends of the show. I'm sure he's going to be on before we take on over here. This is his group over here. And he's been very, very helpful by opening the door for us to get over there, whatnot. So this is his GoFundMe. We are getting help from, a lot of people as far as when we get over there, as far as access to what's going on, being able to observe, and that's great. However, we do have some expenses, and we have to provide some things before we get on over there as well. So please, if you can help out with the GoFundMe, right here it is. It sends CPI to Nicaragua. Get it on out there. Let's help these guys out. These guys really did do a solid for the Convo Couch by getting us connected. We want to connect. We want to cover elections all over the world, not just here at home. FAM did an amazing job in Peru, so this is the next step. And while we're over there, we figured to go to a couple other places. We haven't made any solid plans, but we'll be making announcements as we get more information. But first, let's help CPI get on over to Nicaragua. They'll be over there with us covering the Nicaragua elections that are on November the 7th, and we'll be there for 5 days, a couple days before, a couple days after. So this is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to step it up, take it up to the next level. Convo Couch is going to Nicaragua. Send some love if you can.
So this is the CPI, and they're basically, like I said last time, they're a group that encourages talk about, workers owning the means of production. They're very focused on economics, and they are in touch with the Ministry of Honduras, and we're election integrity, I don't know, activists, but also we have covered elections as well. And so for us to go there and monitor these elections is extremely important. Now, help them out. By helping them out, you help us out. We're going to actually send them some money today. So you'll see a donation from the Convo Couch. We're going to send them some love as well. So we're excited to cover Nicaragua, and then go from there. We'll be announcing where we're going to be going, but it's only the beginning of the things we have planned. We're going to start taking our news international more than ever. And again, the reason we're going is because these elections are pivotal. The United States government is attempting once again to meddle in these elections. Venezuela has upcoming elections. Chile has upcoming elections. So we're really looking heavily into those. We want to make sure that they go the way they go. We talk about, the machines. We talk about the chain of custody. We talk about all these things and how they come together. So really, we have a different perspective than a lot of people who just, who are looking at any obvious sort of rigging. What we look at is really like every aspect of the elections. So help them out if you can. And fams, that's it. We're gonna actually move on to the Rokfin only portion of the show, and we can show the title, Oz, if you want, of what we're about to talk about. So you guys go on into the Rokfin. We're gonna show a couple videos. Some of you may have seen some of the videos we're gonna show. One of them's from Whitney Webb that she posted. It's not from her; it's the one she posted. But we're gonna discuss the ties. The direct ties, and obviously that has to be on Rokfin only. So thank you, YouTube, for supporting us while we're here, for coming up, and we'll see you again soon. So let's make sure to get off by Facebook, by Twitch, by Twitter, by are we going to keep it? We'll be on Odyssey, I think, still, but we're going to get off of YouTube. Just Odyssey and Rokfin. If you don't like Rokfin, you always have Odyssey to go to. So.
It is always appreciated on the couch.
Didn't you have a super rave?